call the order of the Sparks City Council meeting for September 25th with a roll call.
Mayor Lawson,
Here.
council members Abbott,
Here.
Vanderwell,
Here.
Anderson,
Here.
Bybee,
Here.
Dare,
Here.
City Attorney Duncan, Acting City Manager Crawford.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Okay, we've got an invocation by Bishop Brent Forbush, from the Latter-day Saints.
Father, which art in heaven, we are humbled to be here this afternoon. We're thankful for thy support in all of our efforts. We're especially thankful for all of our firefighters and police officers and all those employees of the city of Sparks for the time and effort and dedication that they put into making this city and community such a wonderful place. Father, at this time we pray for thy guidance, for thy inspiration, particularly for our city council members as they go through and listen to items of importance that will continue to improve and make this city and continue to make this city such a wonderful place to live and raise families. We ask for thy blessing that their hearts will be open, their minds will be keen, and their ears will hear the things that they need to and be able to understand and have compassion and empathy and understanding on the important things that they are to discuss today. We ask for thy blessing and guidance in these matters as they may be led by thy hand in the decisions that they should make. In this we pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
City Attorney Duncan, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. Of your heart, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Public comment. You have the mic we can get for Bill?
On my way.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Wagner.
Thank you. I would just like to address my statement to Christopher Crawford and tell him the acting city manager and i.e. Police chief that you did a great job last night when I listened to Ariana Bennett and you speaking together, and you were great. You did a tremendous job. You were very calm, answered all the great questions, did a terrific job, and that's what I wanted to say to you today. Thank you very much for a great job.
Thanks, Bill. Mr. Ron Dreyer, did you want to speak? Come on up. It's, the green microphone on there.
Okay. I'll stand if that's okay.
Pardon me?
I'll stand if that's okay. Do you prefer
Yeah,
to sit?
I guess can't hear the
Okay,
mic.
I'll sit. Well, Mayor Larson and honorable members of the City Council, thank you for having me here today. My name is Ron Dreyer. My firm is Dreyer Law. I am the attorney and representative of multiple labor organizations in Washoe County and in Nevada. I'm here to speak to you on behalf of these organizations that I represent about agenda item 9.2. This is the Forbush versus the City of Sparks case, in which the next steps are being considered here today. Now, this case is of the utmost importance to labor organizations, not only in the City of Sparks, not only in the state of Nevada, but nationwide, because it will have implications across the nation. This touches almost every negotiated agreement that speaks to contractual remedies and what rights an employee through its employee organization has and may waive in a collective bargaining agreement. Now, one thing that the Forbush case has made clear is that this matter is settled and was settled over 20 years ago in a U.S. Supreme Court case titled Wright versus Universal Maritime Service Corporation. Now, in that case, such as with the case brought by Mr. Forbush, the complainant was attempting to address his federal claims outside of the collective bargaining agreement. Very similar to Mr. Forbush's case, the employer argued that the agreement limited the complainant's ability to bring such claims, and he was limited to arbitration. However, the U.S. Supreme Court made it very clear that a right to bring a statutorily protected or prescribed claim is not waived unless there is explicit language in the collective bargaining agreement that states such. The U.S. Supreme Court pointed out that, I quote, "The right to a federal judicial forum is of sufficient importance to be protected against less than explicit union waiver in a collective bargaining agreement." Now, given the clear, unambiguous, and settled case law, it is my belief that using any more taxpayer monies to appeal the Forbush decision is simply and plainly a waste of money. Attempting to right a wrong by creating new case law is a valid reason to continue appealing a case, but that is not the case here. This case law is settled. There is no more argument to be made on behalf of the city, and the use of taxpayer monies to continue an appeal is frivolous. As I stated, I'm here on the behalf of labor organizations I represent to plead with you to allow Mr. Forbush's case to be litigated outside of the collective bargaining process as required. Without a clear waiver of rights, Mr. Forbush is entitled to his day in court, and we are asking you to end the appeals process and permit this to happen. Given that the Ninth Circuit decision is settled case law that will most likely stand up to any appeal, a decision by this council to stop funding the frivolous appeal and direct your outside counsel to try this case on its merits will demonstrate your support for your dedicated, honorable, and hardworking employees who deserve the ability to exercise their protected rights freely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay, we'll pull it back to the dais. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Mr. Abbott,
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Looking for an approval for the minutes. Mr. Dare.
I move to approve the minutes of the special Sparks City Council meeting for September 5th, 2023, and the Sparks City Council meeting for September 11th, 2023.
Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right. You caught up with me? All right, presentation, Washoe County School District Strategic Plan Update. Dr. Enfield. And I got the pleasure to spend the day with her last week, visiting some schools, and what a pleasure.
Want the PowerPoint or the PDF?
The PowerPoint's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It should come up. I have my glasses. Hello. I think you can see me over the screen. It feels very tall, but that's because I'm very short. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I am honored and grateful to be here. And again, Mayor Lawson, thank you so much for joining us last week. I think you could tell the kids were a little starstruck, so you're welcome anytime. I'm very excited to be with you today to share with you the district's new 3-year strategic plan that the board approved in June and that we have been putting the finishing touches on. And because I'm a big believer in party favors and not having people commit things to memory, you have a summary of the plan, as well as a handy-dandy little fold-out that is a summary, and as well as my business card in case you have follow-up questions that you'd like to share with me. I will also say that you are the very first entity to see this hard copy version. We haven't even unveiled it at a board meeting. That's tomorrow night. So I'm really happy that we could debut it here at the Sparks City Council meeting. And so with that, I will go through this presentation rather quickly so that I can leave time for whatever questions you all may have. Okay, hold on a second here. Let me start my slideshow. Got it? Yep, got it. Okay. So first of all, who we are as a district. I think it's surprising for some people that our district has been continuing to grow and to change. We are now a predominantly Spanish-speaking school district. Spanish is our #1 language, followed by English, and then Tagalog. It is true that we have seen, like many districts around the country, some declining enrollment. So these are our numbers as of to date. Well, they obviously fluctuate. And with the opening of J. Wood Raw down in South Reno this year, we are at 103 schools. So I'm going to just go over with you very briefly our strategic planning process that went on from basically January through June. We convened several working groups and community forums. So we had parents and families and students and staff and community leaders and others come together to really help identify what are the things that should be our focus to make sure that our students graduate with all of the skills they need to be successful in our community and beyond. And the following is what we came up with. So this is something that I introduced in my former district, Highline, just outside Seattle. And rather than a mission or vision statement, which I think can sometimes be somewhat one-dimensional and become a bit of a platitude, a promise implies action. A promise says we are promising to you, our families, our students, our community, that we will know every student by name, strength, and need, so they graduate prepared for the future they choose, and we will deliver on this promise in partnership with our families and community. This promise will become the DNA of our system. We will lead every presentation with this promise. It does not matter what the topic is. We could be talking about fish sticks, and I'm going to find a way to ground that presentation in this promise, because at the end of the day, I don't know never met a parent, grandparent, guardian who didn't want this to be true for their child. You want to know that when your child, grandchild, niece, nephew, whomever walks into school, that they are known by a name pronounced correctly with respect and affection. They're known for their strengths, because every child, regardless of circumstance, comes to us with gifts and strengths, and it's our job to untap those, and also what they need, whether it's academic, behavioral, social, emotional, and that they graduate prepared for whatever path they choose for themselves. We want to put no limitations on what our students dream of and become. And so the pillars of our plan are these. First of all, our trustees felt very strongly, and I of course concur, that safety and belonging has to be the overarching theme for all that we do. Safety and belonging in schools has always been important. It took on new meaning and significance during and post-pandemic. And so we know that we want to make sure that not just our students, but our staff feel connected to their schools. They feel respected and seen and safe when they come into the buildings. And the 4 pillars that ground the goals that we have in our plan, there's no real surprises here. We are a school system. So the first one is consistent standards-aligned instruction. The second is partnerships with families and community and school, and that's why I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today. A commitment to elevating our educators. And I just want to point out that the term educators and not staff was a deliberate one on the part of our planning teams. The belief is that wherever you sit within the organization, whatever your title or role, you are an educator. The bus driver who is safely transporting our students to school and is explaining why they can't stand up and shout on the bus while they're driving is educating our students about bus safety. So whatever it is, we want everyone to feel like a valued educator within the Washoe County School District. And then finally, we want to build upon a culture of excellence and accountability for our students and our staff. So these are our goals, and I'm going to go through these very quickly with you, along with what our excellence targets are that we will measure our success by over the next 3 years. So first of all, a strong start for every child. We know that the best thing we can do to ensure our students graduate prepared for whatever future they choose is give them a solid foundation. And so we have set a target that at least 15 out of every 20 students, or 75%, are proficient in English and math by the end of grade 3 within the next 3 years. We think that this is the base. And by the way, I want to be clear, we'll aim higher. But if we can get from where we are now to 75% within 3 years, we're going to be on a good trajectory to get to 100. So we are in the process right now of implementing a pre-K through 3rd grade strategy, so that we're going to look at, I'm currently working with the Children's Cabinet to map out what the current pre-K offerings and childcare offerings are and where we have gaps, and see what we need to do to invest in that. We want to partner with all of our community providers. One of the things that we're going to start doing is hosting trainings for our childcare providers and pre-Ks, so that we're doing joint trainings, and we'll do them on Saturdays so that they don't have to shut down and be out of work. They can't shut down in the middle of the day and not serve the children that they are educating, and make sure that when those children come to us in kindergarten, that they are ready. And finally, we want to launch this year Kindergarten Jumpstart. So right now, I think you may be familiar with the fact that our kindergartners start late. So basically, when all of our other students come into school, our kindergartners and their families are meeting with their teachers, which is great. I'm all for that. We want to flip it. We want to jumpstart. So we want to have them come before school starts, and familiarize themselves with the school, like a week long, where they understand what it means to get in line and talk with the families and all of that. So we're very excited about that. Goal 2 is student voice and advocacy. One of the things that I'm most proud of to serve as superintendent here is the premium that this district places on student voice. We have a student voice summit every year. We have a student advisory council that I meet with on a regular basis. I have charged them this year with developing a cell phone use policy in schools. So we put them to work on things that matter to them. We are going to replicate the Student Advisory Council that we have at the district level, that's high school representatives from all of our schools, at every school. We want all of our principals to have a group of students that they're consulting with regularly to see what we can do to better meet their needs. We really want to expand our students' access to out-of-classroom connections to school. As a former high school teacher and journalism advisor, I know that sometimes it's the extracurricular, it's the sports team, it's whatever it is that keeps that student coming to school and learning. And so we need to invest in those. And we also want, beginning in 5th grade, to create student success plans that our students own. What is it that you dream for yourself? And modify that over the course of their years until they hit 12th grade. Our goal is that 100% of our students have access to these sorts of opportunities over the next 3 years and beyond. 3, and this is going to go back to that overarching theme that you saw above our pillars, safety and belonging. We want to ensure that 100% of our students say they are known by name, strength, and need in their school. I can tell you that I'm out in schools on an almost weekly basis, and I always meet with a group of students when I'm there, and the one thing I always ask them is, do you have at least one adult in your school that you trust and who knows you and that you can go to if you need help or anything? And I expect to see all those hands go up, and when they don't, I have a conversation around what supports can the district put in place to help the school ensure that. So we want to, I've heard people say, we want to be involved, we want to volunteer. You guys make it really, really hard. So we're working on being a little more friendly and accommodating for those who want to volunteer while keeping the safety of our students at the forefront. We want to expand our parent-teacher home visit program. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's a national model. Week before last was the National Parent-Teacher Home Visit Week. I'm proud to say that the Washoe County School District has been doing this for years, and last year conducted over 1,600 visits to visit students and their families in their homes. I also participate in those quarterly so that I can go along and meet with our families and students, and the data that we see around student attendance and academic achievement for the students participating in that is significant. And so we want to replicate that and expand it across the district. And the reality is that our parents and families are our students' first teachers, and we should be one team in service of our students' success. And finally, we want to support our school teams to integrate student climate survey data into their school performance plans. Every school in the state of Nevada has to submit a school performance plan as part of our compliance for accountability in the state. And we want to make sure that what our students are saying about their experience in school is reflected in the priorities and the strategies that the school has laid out. Goal 4, again, we're a school system. We're not making popsicles, we're educating children. So academic growth and achievement is obviously a goal. And our excellence target here is that at least 15 out of 20 of our students in grades 4 through 8 meet or exceed standards in English language arts, math, and science. And so we are going to guarantee equitable access to high-quality standards aligned in core instruction. The board has thankfully approved the adoption of core curricular materials in several grade spans and content areas. That matters. Even the most skilled teacher can only do so much without high-quality learning materials, and our students and our teachers are deserving of the best materials we can give them. So we've made real investments there. To the degree possible, we want to personalize instruction and education for every student. So those student success plans that we talked about, what is it that we know that our students need, and how can we as a school and as a district make sure that they have their needs met? And then finally, professional learning communities is something that our district has done for many, many years. Carving out time for our teachers and staff to collaborate both within their own school, but also across the district as well. Because we all, no matter how good we are at our craft or our job, we're all learners. And we can all learn and grow over the course of our career, and we want to invest in that professionalism within our staff. Goal 5, and this is the last one, and this is really where the rubber meets the road. We want, obviously, all of our students to graduate prepared for whatever path they choose for themselves, but we're naming 2 excellence targets here. Number 1 is that at least 19 out of 20 students will participate in dual credit advanced placement, international baccalaureate, and/or career and technical education pathways, including our JROTC programs, which we are very proud of across the district. So we want to make sure that all of our students have access to not just advanced coursework, but we now have partnerships not only with TMCC, but with UNR to provide dual credit options for students, so our students can earn college credit while they're in high school. We want to make that available to any student who wants it. We also know that career and technical education can be a game changer for some of our students. That's where they find their passion, that's where they find their career, and we want to make sure that we're exposing all of our students to that. And again, we want to build upon our JROTC programs that we are so incredibly proud of. We also want to not leave to chance what our students do when they leave us. After they walk across that stage and take that diploma, we want to know that they have a plan. More importantly, I think their families want to know that they have a plan. So we want our graduates to be able to produce for us, before they leave us, a letter of some kind outlining what their post-graduation plan is. That could be military, it could be college, it could be a job, an apprenticeship, it could be a gap year. But if a student really can't produce something, that's a conversation that needs to happen with the counselor, the teacher, and the families to make sure that they are on a productive path post-graduation. We just don't want to leave that to chance. And then finally, and here's where our community comes into play, we want to increase access to internships and real-world learning opportunities for our students, giving our young people a window into the world of work so that they see that that diploma isn't something that the mean adults are making them do just for kicks, but that that diploma is a ticket to the future that they choose. If they can make that connection, the chances of them staying in school and persisting to graduation increase significantly. So we're going to increase our partnerships with local business and community to get more of our students out there. And frankly, too, I think it's good for the community to see who our kids are and what they're capable of. Because as I say, every one of our students is brilliant, beautiful, and brimming with promise, and I want everyone in our community to see that as well. And so, public education loves a trend. We love a trend. And if one district or state is doing it, we're all going to start doing it. So districts across the nation right now are developing what they call either a portrait of a graduate or a portrait of a learner. The state of Nevada is developing its own as well, but we wanted one that reflected our priorities and the goals in our strategic plan. So if you put the phrase "I am" in front of each of these, we want every one of our students to be able to say, "I am physically and mentally healthy. I am an inspired innovator. I am a skilled communicator and collaborator. I am a resilient learner, and I am a global citizen." And this aligns with what the state is doing as well, but of course we felt like we needed to put our own Washoe County School District flair on it. And finally, schools can't do it alone. So this is an ambitious plan, but I believe that our students are deserving of us setting ambitious goals and aiming high. And so we know we can't do it alone. As you saw in our promise, we know that we're only going to deliver on that in partnership with our families and community. So people always say, what can we do? How can we be involved? So we are right now in the midst of a facility modernization plan you may be familiar with. We are laying out, have been working on it since last year. We'll have the final recommendations to the board early next year, laying out a 5 to 10 year basically capital needs project, which schools need to be rebuilt first based on order of need. The board already took action to rebuild Vaughn Middle School, which I have to tell you, it was one of the very first schools I visited when I came on as superintendent. I went there during summer school, and I'm no structural engineer like my husband. I walked into that school and knew that it was a tear down. So I'm very excited that, that the data bore that out and that we're able to provide them with a new school. Again, volunteer. If you or anyone you know is having challenges volunteering with the district, because as I said, I have heard that it's not always the easiest process, all you need to do is let me know. You have my card. You're welcome to reach out to me at any time, and we'll certainly run some interference and make that happen. And again, in the coming months and years, we're going to be seeking out internship opportunities for our students, and would love for people who are interested in doing that to let us know. And then, of course, there's investing. So, it isn't always just dollars. It's in-kind investment. It's time. We do have our Education Alliance, which raises money to support our staff. It supports the store that our teachers get to go and get school supplies in. It supports Partners in Education, which we're incredibly proud of. And that's a wonderful organization to be a part of as well. And finally, sponsorship of programs and initiatives. We're in the process right now of developing one-page documents to align with each of our goals that will lay out areas of need and where people can invest and support, so that we're not leaving it to chance. If people want to be involved and they want to engage, here's what we need and here's how you can do that. So stay tuned. Those are coming soon. And I took this photo. One of my favorite things at commencement is to go out and be with the students before they line up and go up on stage, and I take photos. And if that photo doesn't give you hope for the future, I'm not exactly sure what will. And so with that, I am we'll
Questions
open
from the
it to
council?
questions.
Spivey?
Thank you so much for being here. I'm inspired, for sure. I like a lot of, this strategic plan is different than where we've been before, and I only say we because I've served on, I'm on the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission since it started 9 years ago, capital funding, so I know where our dollars, and I'm helping make sure the dollars from WC1 are spent like they should be. And so and before that was longtime president of every PTA, involved parent, and now serving on these commissions and then with the council. Really, very aware of what's going on with the school district. And I really like the feel and the message of what you're looking at and the ambition behind it, and really working together for the success as a community. We can only be better by really making sure our kids know that it's important, accountability for the kids and the parents and the community, because together that's how we move forward and we're successful. So thank you very much. I love this new strategic plan, and thank you for taking some time to give a presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bybee. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your service. I know a few people who have done as much as you have done and do to support our schools, and we are grateful for that. And you are right, it is an ambitious plan, but as I've said, we want to set goals that are worthy of our students, and that means we want to aim high. And my team is now tired of me saying, I'd rather aim high and fall short than aim low and fall shorter, because our kids deserve us to aim high. So thank you.
Mr. Dare?
Yeah, I thank you for mentioning the volunteerism portion, because you're right on that, actually. We have a lot of our service groups that like to go out and do things, and that shut down for a while because of some of those things. And so one of the things that is helpful is to get us information on what are some of the things that some of these service groups that we're all involved with can actually come in and do to help. Because sometimes our ideas actually aren't good either. So I say that nicely. We're like, hey, let's go give everyone candy, whatever. So we have a lot of ideas that sometimes does not work. And then I just say for Sparks, focusing in on what we get to do. I'm very interested if there's things going on that we can come alongside. If you're touring a school, we all have different wards and different things we're involved with, but very interested in that. So please continue to do that. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you for that. And I can certainly work with our team to communicate my school visit schedule as we know it when I'm in one of the Sparks or some of the Sparks schools. If you'd like to join me, you are more than welcome. And you are welcome to reach out to me anytime and say, hey, any school visits coming up? I need a feel-good moment. And we can make that happen. But thank you. We'll certainly do that.
Anyone else? Mr. Abbott?
I love the intern idea, and, I think there's probably a way we could hopefully find some interns, here at the city, as well as I think even us as electeds. I never thought I'd ever graduate and run for office, and I don't think any of my colleagues probably thought of all that either back in those years. But I think that's a great opportunity if we can volunteer ourselves to be interns for half a day or something. I think about principal for half a day, which that was mind blowing of all this good stuff they do in half a day. But throwing that out there.
We would love that. I'd love to expose our students to public service and why it's so important. So that is certainly an option. Thank you for, I think, in essence, volunteering on the spot, Councilmember Abbott, to host an intern. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We had a program with Rotary for many years where we did 8th grade career day. And it was enlightening to me to open these kids' eyes up to being a vet or a doctor or even in the trades, everything. And they picked up the things that, so I'd like to maybe see if we can get our Rotary Club back together.
That'd be
We
great.
did it all on one day, but it got really hard to volunteer with the firstborn child you had to give up.
We're happy to make that a less painful process and would love to partner on making something like that
Let me
happen.
follow up with that.
Okay,
just because
please.
It was great for us and it was great for the kids. And
Sounds great.
we went and saw a nurse, just to tell you a quick story. And they said, the little girl that was with us, she said, how much does a nurse make? She said, that's $60,000 a year. I she didn't understand what $60,000 was. So we broke it down into hourly, it's like $50. So she goes, wow, my mom only makes $8 an hour. That was an aha moment for that one kid that I think will help change your life. So those are the kind of cool things. And of course, hanging out with you is always fun. The kids love you.
Hanging out in our schools is always fun, I will say that. And I will also say that our theme this year is that we want to be the district of yes. We can't and won't, and wouldn't be smart to say yes to everything. But, when you're in a place of instability and scarcity of resources, which our district, like many across the country, has been for quite some time now, the safer path is to say no. But we're in a different time now. And it's time to be open to possibility and opportunity, and it's time to say yes. So if you come to us with an idea that is good for our kids and we can make it happen, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
You've been hanging out too much.
Like our city.
What you're saying?
Well, that is my campaign slogan, finding a way to say yes.
This wasn't a plant. This was genuine on my
I stole it anyway, so you're more than welcome to steal it from me.
part. Terrific.
All right, anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Enfield. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, and I'm happy to come back mid-year and end of year and report out on our progress at any time. Please just let me know. Thank you for your time and your service.
We appreciate it. You got a fan. Okay, proclamation, Fire Prevention Week. Fire Marshal Pat Chu, come on down. Yes. You're going to get read to by Councilman Anderson.
All right, thank you guys for being here, and we'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas the City of Sparks is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting our state, and whereas home fires killed more than 2,800 people in the United States in 2021, according to the National Fire Protection Agency, and the fire departments in the United States responded to 338,000 home fires, with a fire every 24 seconds. And whereas cooking is a leading cause of home fires in the United States, and fire departments responded to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 2020, and whereas 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of these fires resulting from unattended cooking. And whereas more than half of reported non-fatal home cooking fires injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves. And whereas City of Sparks residents should turn pot handles toward the back of the stove, always keep a lid nearby when cooking, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone, around the stove and oven and other things that might get hot, and watch that they heat and set a timer to remind them as they are cooking. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. And whereas City of Sparks fire responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection and education. And whereas City of Sparks residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme is Cooking Safety Starts With You, Pay Attention for Fire Prevention. Effectively serving to remind us is to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of fire in the kitchen. Now therefore, Ed Lawson, Mayor, City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim October 8th through the 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the City of Sparks, and remind all people of the City of Sparks that cooking safety starts with you. Pay attention for fire prevention, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the City of Sparks and the Fire and Emergency Services. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Anderson, Mayor Lawson. Before I tell a little brief history about the Fire Prevention Week, I just want to say, Acting City Manager Crawford, you look good in that suit and you fit right in. Yeah, so everybody who gets into the fire service usually takes a class on some of the basic stuff, all the way back to our founding fathers, and Benjamin Franklin, if you didn't know, started the first fire brigade. And in 1871, we had this really large fires in Chicago, which everybody learns when they start taking a class and want to be a firefighter. Why you want to be a firefighter? What's been the result of previous history? Why you want to do that? So in Chicago in 1871, we had a pretty large fire. About 17,000 homes, buildings, structures was lost. In today's value, that's about $4.5 billion. So in 1922, NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, dedicated the second week of October as a result of the Great Chicago Fire. And then our 30th president, President Calvin Coolidge, dedicated that week as National Fire Prevention Week. So every year ever since then, this is known as Fire Prevention Week. So that's kind of the history of Fire Prevention Week, and as a result of the Great Chicago Fire.
Thank you.
Okay.
Question? Go ahead.
First off, I just want to say thank you for everything you guys do, because yes, those that are going out fighting fires, that's an important role, but hopefully we're preventing them, and that's what your team does. And I was just wondering, can you tell us a couple of things that you all do on the fire prevention side? And I think one of them is actually this weekend, isn't it?
Yes. This weekend, we actually have a pancake breakfast, and hopefully everybody can come to that. Most of you guys already signed up to flip some pancakes, so I'm looking forward to that as my first one. This is a great opportunity here in the city of Sparks, and as the fire marshal, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Our guys and gals has been for weeks now preparing for this, and those who plan an event know the logistics takes a long time, and there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. And so we've been working at this for weeks now on donations, on who's going to get what, the tables and chairs, making sure that the propane tank is up and running legal and so forth. And so it's been a lot of work. We're expecting over 500 people again, just like every year. And so please come and join the pancake breakfast. And we got sausage too that morning. So there you go. Well, I didn't answer your question about what we do, but there's a lot of things that we do to prevent fires. And these two guys here are part of the team that actually helps us prevent fires. So.
Okay, anyone else?
Can I just, real quick? I want to do a plug for anybody out there as well. Even if you don't like pancakes, they do an awesome thing in the back where these guys go and they teach kids all kinds of things about fire safety. You get to drag a dummy, you get to do a few different things, and so it's an awesome thing. You guys do a great job. So, but thanks for being here, and obviously, I think you guys do fantastic work in our city. But
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Okay. Oh, we need to get a picture. Guys, don't run away.
For MySpace. Appreciate all the work, yes. Still a thing? We go virtual, though. On my AI bot, just when you.
All right, item 7.3, International Walk to School Day. Mr. Abbott.
Awesome. Perfect. Whereas parents driving children to school can account for up to 25% of the morning rush hour traffic in the vicinity of schools. And whereas walking and bicycling to school reduces the number of vehicle trips in the vicinity of schools and potential conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians or bicyclists. And whereas reducing the number of vehicles driving students to school results in increased safety, reduced traffic congestion, improved air quality, and less fuel consumption in the vicinity of schools. And whereas the benefits related to physical activity at an early age play a leading role in reducing rates of heart disease, diabetes, and other obesity-related health problems among children. And whereas children walking and bicycling to school, together with parents and caregivers, opens opportunities to mentor children about pedestrian and bicycle safety and its benefits related to health and the environment. And whereas walking and bicycling to school offers an opportunity to build physical activity into both parents' and children's daily routines. Now therefore, I, Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, October 4th, 2023 as International Walk to School Day in the City of Sparks, and encourage citizens of Sparks to walk or bicycle with their children to school while celebrating the benefits of increased safety and health this day and throughout the year.
There we go.
Good
Give us your name
afternoon.
for the
I'm
record, please.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Give us your name for the record, please.
I'm Robbie Pape. This is Jennifer Iveson. We're the Safe Routes Coordinators for the Washoe County School District. So I just want to thank the city council members and Mayor Larson for having us here today. As many of you know, Walk to School Day is held annually and locally. This year, nationally, it was supposed to be held on October 4th. October 4th actually falls on fall break for the school district, so that really didn't work for us. So I know there's a little bit of, the dates kind of got conflicting. Also in October, as we know in Northern Nevada, our weather isn't so good sometimes, so we decided to move it to last week, which a lot of you also know because you participated in some of our events. So within those events, we had upwards of 1,800 students participate in a variety of different events throughout the school district pertaining to walking to school. Two things we want to do and two goals that we mainly have with this event, and that's to educate and encourage students. And we want to encourage students for a lot of the reasons that the proclamation just said. We want to reduce traffic around our schools, reduce pollution, get our kids active and ready to learn in the morning. So that's one of the benefits for the encouragement portion. The education portion, it's huge for us because we want to use local law enforcement entities. We want to use social media. We want to get into the schools ourselves during this time, and the schools are more receptive to that when we're hosting events and running events. So this year, I know we're only 5 weeks into the school year, but we've already had 4 incidents involving motorists and pedestrians. Luckily for us, they've all been very, very minor, but what we have seen is about 80% of our incidents occur in crosswalks. So we're putting a huge emphasis on crosswalk education moving forward, and that's what we did during last week's events, and we continue to do. So thank you for having us, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Questions from the council? Pardon me?
I didn't know if she had anything to add.
Jennifer Iveson, Safe Routes to School Coordinator. I didn't have anything to add, but I thank all of you that participated in our events. We were at multiple schools, and the students love having you, and we love your support, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always fun to do that. Fun to walk with the kids. They're so energetic. It's fun.
They are.
All right, anyone else? Okay, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We're gonna have you get a picture with Councilman Abbott, our photographer here.
Sounds good. Which one first? You guys go? Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Okay, 7.4, proclamation, Careers and Construction Month. Ms. Vanderwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas Careers in Construction Month is observed annually and is designated to increase public awareness and appreciation of construction craft professionals in the entire construction workforce. And whereas during October, employers, associations, and schools are encouraged to conduct job fairs, panel discussions, and local community events to inform students of the vast employment opportunities in the construction industry in Nevada and across the country. And whereas the construction industry is Nevada's 4th largest sector in total employment with more than 92,000 jobs, and whereas DETA reports that the construction industry in the Silver State has recovered to about 115% of its pre-pandemic peak, and whereas Nevada continues to provide opportunities for secondary and post-secondary students as well as individuals looking for entry into the job market with training opportunities, and whereas organizations across the state work to highlight opportunities for training and information on the construction industry, which will lead to long-term rewarding careers in construction, and whereas the City of Sparks is pleased to honor the construction industry and all of the construction trades and the critical role they play in the economic development of Nevada. Now, therefore, I, Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Careers in Construction Month.
Do we have anyone here for the proclamation?
I don't think we did.
Okay. All right, well then let's move on to consent items. Anyone wishing to pull a consent item? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson,
Move to approve consent items 8.1 and 8.2 as submitted.
Mr. Dare.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Well, wait a minute. I'm waiting for Mr. Dare to vote. Now it carries unanimously. Okay. 9.1, consideration, discussion, and possible appointment of Mark Sturban to serve on the Sparks Tourism and Marketing Committee for a term ending in December 31st of 2027.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson, members of the City Council, and Emily Pate, your Parks and Recreation Administrative Manager, for the record. I'm before you today to ask for your approval of the appointment of Mark Sturbans to the Sparks Tourism and Marketing Committee for a term ending December 31st, 2027. This committee is made up of two elected officials from Sparks and one member who must also be a member of the Nevada Resort Association. The vacancy on the Tormark Committee was created with the resignation of the NRA representative in August. Mark Sturbans is employed by Nugget Casino Resort, which is a member of the NRA. Staff recommends appointment of Mark Sturbans to the Sparks Tourism and Marketing Committee, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for you.
Okay, questions from the council? All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee. Bless you.
I'm very happy to make the motion to appoint Mark Sturbans to the Sparks Tourism and Marketing Committee for a term ending December 31st, 2027.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. That was easy, huh?
Yeah.
9.2, consideration, discussion, possible approval of a governance agreement, AC 5984, between the City of Sparks, City of Reno, Washoe County, and REMSA related to the Hexagon Unified Computer-Aided Dispatch and Records Management. I'm having a hard time remembering to say Mr. Manager, Mr. Acting City Manager, Chief
Manager.
Chief Manager. Got a lot of hats.
A lot of hats. Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson, members of City Council. For the record, I'm Chris Crawforth, your acting city manager and police chief. Before you today is a governance agreement for the joint management of the future regional computer-aided dispatch and law enforcement records management system. The system is expected to go live in approximately 27 months. Computer-aided dispatch is utilized in all regional dispatch centers for public safety dispatching. Currently, Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County operate on the same system, and REMSA operates on a different system. Both systems are at end of life. Approximately 18 months ago, Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, and REMSA personnel began working to implement a new system with the goal of improving a caller's experience through reduction of call transfer amongst entities, while also reducing response time of emergency services. During that time, the entities utilized an external consulting firm to identify the new system and create the governance agreement before you today. Washoe County will be the manager of the system agreement, while governance will be shared amongst the primary entities in the region that provide emergency services. Historically, the system has been managed by one entity with no regional agreement. This governance agreement creates 3 levels of management. The most critical is the change management group, which is comprised of personnel from IT, records, and dispatch personnel from all 4 entities. The executive group is comprised of 2 personnel from Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County, and 1 from REMSA. The managers group has final oversight and will consist of the 2 city managers, the county manager, and the CEO of REMSA. This agreement has already been approved and signed by Reno, Washoe County, and REMSA, with Sparks being the final approval. I would like to take a moment to thank all the regional partners for coming together in a manner that I have not observed in my entire career. Staff recommends approval of the governance agreement, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, questions from the council?
Oh, I have a video as well I forgot about.
A video.
a video.
Is it vacation video or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet. He wears a.
One system has grown to become siloed. Sometimes callers have to repeat information during the worst moments, and seconds can feel like minutes while waiting for help to arrive. Thankfully, through the leaders at the City of Reno, the City of Sparks, Washoe County, and Remsa Health are working together to revolutionize how our 911 system operates in our growing region.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
City Hall.
Okay, City Hall at 1 East 1st Street in downtown. Okay, where in the City Hall are you?
The first floor.
Okay, is she unconscious?
I think so.
And how old do you think she is?
I don't know, this isn't good.
Okay, we're getting help started right now, okay? I'm gonna transfer you to the paramedics and they're gonna ask the address again, don't
Okay,
hang up.
okay. Oh, are you okay, Miss Vicky?
Fire Medical, what is the address of the emergency?
City Hall?
Okay, we have lots of help on the way. The first step to improving the 911 system is to get all the regional partners on the same technology for our computer-aided dispatch system, or CAD, which had never been done before. Streamlined technology is critical in prioritizing and recording the calls and coordinating a timely response.
Over the last year, we've worked towards identifying a CAD system that meets the distinct needs of all 4 agencies, including EMS, fire, and police services, while providing a platform for seamless resource sharing for emergencies.
Meanwhile, in July of 2022, the Reno and Sparks City Councils, along with the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners, came together for a meeting to discuss regional dispatch protocols using the 911 system. To achieve this, we established a regional working group composed of EMS, fire, law enforcement, and dispatch to partner with consultants at Federal Engineering to assess the current system and provide recommendations for what regionalization could look like in Northern Nevada. Over the last 12 months, we participated in on-site visits, data collections, and workshops.
During this process, it quickly became clear that efforts to regionalize 911 services were heavily dependent on technology.
Therefore, both projects became interconnected while regional partners worked together to improve the 911 response system while continuing the CAD replacement project.
As we approach the 1 year since establishing the regional working group, we've made notable progress thus far, but there's still work to be done. In the coming months, we continue efforts to implement a unified CAD system in partnership with Hexagon Safety and Infrastructure. We anticipate launching the new system in August 2025. Furthermore, our working group will implement the final recommendations memo and governance plan, which will be turned into a strategic plan with ongoing actions to ensure efficient and improved emergency responses. We expect this to be an ongoing process that will evolve as the CAD project is implemented.
So why does it matter to you? When you call 911, seconds matter. Know that your community leaders and first responders are committed to working together to enhance protocols using the 911 system to deploy the nearest and most appropriate resources to any emergency.
We are proud to work together to keep our community safe.
Mr. Dare, you had a question?
Yeah, amazing work. First of all, I know that this is a big lift, and getting everyone at the table and staying at the table and then making decisions together are all miracles sometimes. And so thank you for the work that I know you've been a part of, and our fire department and everybody else. The questions I have is, so it mentioned some of the next steps. Can you just highlight that for us, some of the things? I mean, I know we're at the not the beginning of the conversation, but the beginning of the changes. And I say that, what are a few other things that we should be looking for?
The big next step is the 2 cities in the county will develop a IT staffing, if you will, where they all work together for the future implementation, because obviously our IT systems are slightly different. So that's the next step that's already in process and occurring. And then these 3 different groups, I identified really that change management group, the folks that actually make this work. Dispatchers, records, IT, they will all start meeting routinely and bringing it to the next group. So right now, I don't think there's anything other than just ask, and we'll keep you updated as we go.
Thank you, fantastic, appreciate it.
Ms. Bybee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you're saying it's still 27 months off because there's a lot of work to be done still. So just in the meantime, will we see any differences or not till the full system is launched and active, or will we see along the way, will there be improvements of the whole regional CAD system, or not until it goes live?
We were looking at other processes, but the real change that you'll observe is going to be in that timeline, which is the recommendation from the vendor of how long it'll take everything to come together. So we were also looking at current system processes that we can make changes in the next 12 months before that system comes online.
Hey, anyone else? Mr. Abbott?
So in 28 months, and someone calls 911, what can they expect, I guess? What differences will our community be able to see?
The big example right now that is occurring is if someone were to call Sparks and it was a call for Reno, we would pretty quickly transfer that call, which means now in your time of dire need, you're essentially put on hold while it's only a few seconds. With the new system, and one of the things we're looking at is that initial person that you call on 911 will probably spend 2 to 3 minutes with you as we're dispatching all the most appropriate and closest resources to you. And then we can do that transfer after you know that everyone's coming and you've already had some good conversation. You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Thanks for riding herd on this, Chief. I know it's like herding cats is, I guess, the best way to do it when we're trying to do things regionally. But this is something that our community deserves and we need as a community. So thank you for keeping that up and keeping this thing moving.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I am looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
I move to approve the governance agreement AC 5984 between the City of Sparks, City of Reno, Washoe County, and REMSA related to the Hexagon Unified Computer Aided Dispatch and Records Management.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 9.3, consideration, discussion, and possible direction to outside counsel regarding next steps in litigation following the appellate decision affirming an order denying a motion to dismiss the complaint in Forbush versus City of Sparks et al., case number 3-21-CV-00163-MMD-WGC.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson and City Council members. For the record, I'm Allison McCormick, your Assistant City Manager. I'm before you today seeking your direction on next step litigation in the Forbush matter. As stated in the agenda item and the staff report, the Ninth Circuit recently affirmed the district court's order denying our motion to dismiss, which was submitted by our outside counsel, Holland and Hart. Given that procedural step, you essentially have three options. You can allow that decision of the Ninth Circuit to stand, which would mean that we would go back to district court and continue litigating this matter. You can seek either rehearing in front of that three-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit or reconsideration by the whole court or en banc. Or you can direct outside counsel to seek a writ of certiorari, which would be the Supreme Court of the United States reviewing the Ninth Circuit's decision. Staff recommends that you choose one of those options and provide direction to our outside counsel. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? No questions. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
we are going to go ahead and put up the alternative motions on the screen, and then we will just need to know which motion the council member is making prior to making it.
Do I have someone who wants to make a motion first?
I can make a motion,
Okay, Mr. Dare.
and I would make a motion on number one.
Okay. So you want to repeat that?
I move to direct defense counsel to proceed with litigation in district court in Forbush versus City of Sparks et al., case number 321-CV-00163-MMD-WGC, period.
Okay, I've got a motion. Mr. Anderson.
I'll second the motion.
Got a second by Mr. Anderson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. 9.4, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a 3-year contract, AC 5985, with UMR for third-party administrator services with the city's self-funded group healthcare plan in the amount of $324,000 $899 for calendar year 2024, $331,995 for calendar year 2025, and $339,250 for calendar years 2026. Jill.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Jill Valdez, Human Resources Director, for the record. I also have the city's brokers here with me, and throughout the presentation, you'll hear from them as well. This afternoon, before you is the selection of a third-party administrator for the city's group health plan. The third-party administrator contract with Hometown Health has been from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st of 2023, although the city has been with Hometown Health since 2016. And once we knew that this expiration was coming up, we worked with our brokers, who will give you a little bit of history of what the process is for going out to bid and evaluating candidates.
Good afternoon. Lloyd Barnes, LP Insurance Services, for the record. Jill had just asked if I could give her a little bit of background on sort of how this process unfolded and some of the things that the city has evaluated as they've gone through this TPA RFP evaluation process. And I think, just from a background perspective, for those of you that have been around our community for many years, you'll recall that we've come from a situation where we've had two primary local hospital systems and healthcare systems with St. Mary's and Renown over the course of time. And one of the things that has existed in our interesting community is that many organizations, especially self-funded employers, have had a situation where they had to choose one system or the other. And it was very rare that you could have your employees have access to multiple providers, multiple healthcare system providers under the same health insurance program or health benefits program. And that's been a characteristic of our community for many, many years. And over the last 5 or so years, some of those dynamics have started to change in our community, where there are systems and healthcare organizations, healthcare plans, networks that are now having access to more providers, typically all the healthcare systems and healthcare providers in our community, all the major healthcare system providers in our community, certainly not all. And so I think as part of this process and as this evolution has happened in our community, many local government plans that are sponsor self-funded programs have started to explore their programs, explore the offering that they provide to their employees and see if there's a different model that might work better for their employees. And as the current contract that Jill referred to came to an end or comes to an end this year, the city's HR and risk management team asked if we could assist them in going through this exercise of looking at alternatives. There's been a variety of challenges over the last couple of years with some of the service issues that the city has endured, and so therefore they felt that it was a good time to maybe look at everything anew. And there's been so many changes, as I referred to, in our healthcare delivery system that it was a good time. And so we went through the process on the city's direction of evaluating provider networks and provider administrators that we felt would be viable for the city. And as Jill referenced, there were 3 finalists that were determined the top considerations, and those 3 were evaluated, and this is the results of that evaluation process.
Our 3 top finalists are Hometown Health, which is our incumbent, Meritain, which you probably know more familiarly as Aetna, and then UMR, or United Healthcare. So So what this presentation will help us understand is, first, what does this TPA choice impact and what doesn't it impact? What kind of services do TPAs provide? And then we'll go through a visual comparison of the vendors on many of the scores that we were evaluating through this process. The most important thing to highlight is that making a third-party administrator choice does not affect the benefit levels, does not affect our pharmacy plan, dental or vision coverage or providers, or our life insurance offerings. To put in perspective this TPA choice before you, the group health care plan is about a $12 to $13 million spend per year. The current TPA costs as a percentage of the overall healthcare spend is about 1%. Most commonly, we think of a third-party administrator as administering the city's plan document, applying discounts, and paying claims, and then providing those customer services. And that is the primary service that we have received over the last contract period. But a third-party administrator provides many more services than that. So what a TPA can do is help to explain recommendations for the benefit design. For example, our group health care committee has been tasked with looking at cost savings ideas because in February, March, our brokers told us that our costs are going up by 17 to 20%. So the benefit group needs recommendations from a third-party administrator that has the expertise in medical trends, who has our data. They can provide reports. They can bring us ideas for optimizing our plan, reviewing for changes that are material that could potentially stop or hopefully reverse that cost trend. Other things that a third-party administrator does is they provide the network for the City of Sparks as far as our doctors and other medical providers. They also pay some bills for us. Not only do they pay the bills that we have through our medical providers, they also pay other things like our stop-loss bills. They help coordinate information to our COBRA provider. There are many bills for the entire program that they pay. They provide claims management and cost control on some of our most significant higher dollar or chronic care claims. They're an important aspect of our record keeping. Obviously, they have all of our claims data. They provide customer service, not just for people about claims questions that they may have, but also for questions about who can I see on the network? What kind of provider has the expertise that I need? And there are new requirements for them to provide cost information about providers so that members can make informed decisions. And then no HR presentation would be complete without mentioning compliance and state and federal filings. And so those are things that they do for us as well. Now, you asked for some visual representations of what we used when we were making a recommendation to council. So I hope that I brought you something that visually helps you to see the differences. Starting with this slide about network availability, I've highlighted in green the responses that were advantage one or the other. So in this case, starting with that nationwide network, both Meritain and UMR have an advantage here in that Meritain is the third largest and UMR the first largest national network that's a seamless network. And Hometown does have access to nationwide network. I would like to give our broker an opportunity to tell us what's different in the delivery of that network.
Again, Lloyd Barnes with LP Insurance Services. you know, some of the things to consider with the network structure. Provider or health plans and their network, part of the health plan contracts with providers throughout the various regions which they offer services. And one of the dynamics of a regional plan, more local plan, is that typically they're having their core contracts be in the region where they operate. For Hometown, that is primarily Northern Nevada, although they do have a provider network in Southern Nevada as well. And so what organizations like that do to make sure they fill the gaps for organizations that have employees outside the area or kids living outside the area or emergency services, they'll wrap around that core network a contract with what we call a national plan or a national wrap network. And Hometown Health does do that, has done that for many years, and it generally works for the employee access. Some of the advantages of using a provider that has an owned national network, such as UMR, which is again under the United Healthcare umbrella, is those are generally more aggressively contracted provider contracts with those providers in each given region, because they're out contracting for their own population within a given region of California or Texas or Colorado versus, you know, sort of that rental network model. Again, it tends to work, but there are definitely some advantages to that cohesion of a national network platform that both UMR and Meritain under the Aetna model bring to the table. So those were some of the things that the city also looked at.
Under the next column, it says a % existing network match. So what does that mean? With the Hometown network, Meritain and UMR compared their networks to see, do they offer the same doctors, the same hospitals, the same providers that our members have access to now? And both of them found that they do provide over 99% match for the existing network, at least what was being utilized in 2022, which was the data provided to them. So the way I like to look at that is that if you were to consider Meritain or UMR, you get the existing network that includes Renown and those doctors, plus, so you get to keep that, plus you add on to that. So adding on, you get the Northern Nevada Medical Center and the St. Mary's Hospital as part of that, plus the Sparks providers that we lost when we moved to the Hometown Renown model. We also get the St. Mary's providers. So it's a larger group, and it's no longer, like the broker said, like Lloyd said, a choice of one or the other. Now with Meritain or UMR, you can get the best of both worlds in a large comprehensive network. Also, another consideration that was important for the city, because we do have the police fire, mental and behavioral health for our own employees, plus, of course, our dependents and retirees was a big consideration. Both Meritain and UMR have significant local and nationwide networks.
Jill, can we back up a second?
Yes.
I thought we could use Northern Nevada.
Great question. Yes, we can currently use Northern Nevada Medical Center as a hospital because of a contract through the Nevada Business Group on Health. However, that doesn't allow you to use the doctors and providers that are up at the Northern Nevada campus. So for example, if you wanted your primary care doctor to be one of the Northern Nevada primary care providers, you would not be able to do that under our current situation. Centers of excellence are locations where that have been identified across the city, usually a place where they have specialized care, sometimes for rare conditions like different cancers, but not exclusively for cancers. It could be other conditions as well. And a center of excellence is a place where they have outcomes that are very desirable. So it's important to the city to have centers of excellence available to our members. One of the reasons for that is because we are a small plan, which means that large claims or large high-risk situations are significantly impact the plan if they do happen, and especially if we have more than one of them in a year. You've probably seen in my stop-loss presentations that if there's something known, it often gets lasered out. So having centers of excellence that have discounted rates is really important for the city. It's almost like having an umbrella. If you bring the umbrella, hopefully it doesn't rain. But to guard against some of the risks, that the large financial risks that the city faces, our opportunity to use many centers of excellence is key. Hometown does have the University of Utah as the center of excellence with discounted rates. It is possible for our members to go to some places in California, such as the University of California at Davis. But the advantage that Meritain and UMR have is that they have some of the largest network of centers of excellence with discounted rates across the country, which means they have a wide variety of those, again, for outcomes that may relate to particular types of conditions that our members have, and that discount rate is very key. Did Nate or Lloyd, did you have anything to add about the centers of excellence?
Yeah, I'll just add that, I think one of the waterfall impacts of these Center of Excellence contracts is, as it does relate to your stop-loss policy contract rates, premium rates, as Jill referred to, you buy stop-loss to protect the plan against the very big claims. And we want to make sure that you have every opportunity to get the best contracts available when something can't be done here. And it happens, it's not a regular occurrence, it's not a daily or weekly occurrence, but they do happen. And so I think the idea here is to tap into as broad and as aggressively contracted network of providers that live in this center of excellence space, as Jill alluded to.
Yes.
Yep.
On the centers of excellence, our total, I think you said 13 million is what we're paying out roughly in a year. Of people going to UC Davis or anywhere else besides somewhere in the region, is that 2% of that 13 million? Is that, what is that number?
Because your plan is so relatively small, it can be zero in a given year, and it could be, $1 million in a given year.
We
So
have had $1 million years.
You have had, I won't say $1 million claim that I can think of off the top of my head for a center of excellence situation, but you certainly have had very, very significant claims that have had to go outside of the area. Right? We certainly could go back and try to provide some of that historical information on where some of those claims have gone, but it does happen throughout the course of time.
Additional services that we looked at, the support team in Northern Nevada was very important to us, and both Hometown and UMR have that. The availability of reports that explain why our customers are calling into the line, that's something that's standard for Meritain and UMR. It's not available through Hometown. And then a mental and behavioral health medical director. As I told you, mental health care is something that's of importance to our population. UMR is the only one of these vendors who has a medical director available to help our members with access to mental and behavioral health care and questions about their care. Another important factor for our group healthcare committee is understanding what our claims mean in the larger picture of what's happening across our region and across the country. So benchmarking is a key piece of information that we can use to understand, are we seeing unusual costs? Do we have something that our plan design isn't addressing? Are there trends that we need to get out in front of? How can we manage the self-funded plan? And the benchmarking is only as good as the database that it lives in. So what can you do with a large network? Well, you can look at things like other similarly situated public entities. You can look at other groups that might be similar in size, or you can look at other situations that may be relevant. So we feel that Meritain and UMR are best situated to be able to do that. They already have an existing platform that allows them to provide reports regularly and on an expected basis that includes benchmarking, much like our pharmacy benefit manager does for us. And it's expected and readily delivered trend analysis, so an understanding of what's happening in this country with regards to costs, high cost claims, for example, chronic conditions like diabetes. They are regularly providing information about that to the group health care committee so that they understand what's happening and can make informed recommendations to the council on behalf of the plan. The Meritain and UMR also employ a case manager on the team whose purpose is to provide this information in context on a regular basis to the group health care committee. Our pharmacy benefit manager does that at every group health care committee meeting. We do not have that situation with Hometown. So if you put these three things together, there is a platform with both Meritain and UMR for regular reports that would be valuable to a self-funded plan like ours, trends, information about how we stack up against other similar organizations or groups of people, and they're out in front of what the group health care committee needs in terms of our own data analysis and that against what we're seeing across the country. So this is one of the most significant differences that I see and what I believe the group health care committee needs in order to make their decisions. You did ask that I go to the group health care committee and speak with them. They've seen this presentation. And some of their feedback is that the costs, the rising costs, are of significant importance to them. I don't know how to get them the tools that they need to address those costs without having a platform like what I'm seeing through Meritain and UMR. Member tools. One thing that we've had requests for from our group health care committee members and from members across from many of our employees and retirees is the ability to look at the providers and understand which ones are the best providers for them to go to. Because otherwise they're asking their friends or neighbors, but how do they know that that's going to give them the quality that they need? So both Meritain and UMR have platforms, and I'll give you a slide later that shows you what that will look like. But they have a way for our members to go in when they're selecting their doctor and see what kind of outcomes those providers are receiving and what others are saying about that provider through the use of a star system, much like if you were on Yelp or something else. They also include with that a very easy to understand analysis of the costs you might expect if you were to go to see that provider. And then UMR takes that one step further and has a reward system for the providers that tries to get them looking at outcomes. So they reward them for outcomes. Which of course is not only important for the costs of the plan, but it's also important for our members who obviously want the best medical outcome that they can get. Now I'd like to switch gears and talk about performance guarantees. So all of the vendors that we've looked at have performance guarantees, and that is how we can gauge whether they're providing the service that they say they're going to for us. And what kinds of things are they measuring? A performance guarantee provides money back to the city if the standards are not met. So on this first slide, I have listed the performance guarantees that our incumbent Hometown has offered, and we can look at that against what Meritain and UMR have. So in the first column, how long does it take for them to answer their phones? Advantage UMR at 30 seconds or less. In the past period, Hometown was 120 seconds. They've reduced that to 75 seconds in their proposal. The phone call abandonment rate. So you call, you get tired of waiting, so you don't stay on the line. Again, Advantage UMR at 3%. The claims financial accuracy, both Hometown and UMR have the advantage at 99%. Claims processing time, UMR benchmarks against a 10-day window of time with 90% of their claims processed in that period. And then claims procedural accuracy, advantage Hometown, 98%. The next slide here is the additional performance guarantees that Meritain and UMR offer that Hometown does not. And the first two are really significant to me. One is UMR does customer satisfaction surveys. So they look to see what our members feel about that, about the performance that they're receiving, the customer service that they get. And they expect to have 90% or above satisfied. Also, there are account management satisfaction surveys. So they are looking at things that are of significance to not only the human resources, the brokers, but also our group health committee. You know, how responsive are they to us? Claims payment accuracy, UMR has that advantage. How quickly do they provide reports and regular expected reports? Both Meritain and UMR offer reports on schedule that they think are of value to us. First call resolution, all three evaluate first call resolution. Meritain is the only one that makes that our performance guarantee. And then Meritain is the only one that has implementation goals with a performance guarantee. I told you that the account management performance guarantee criteria are significant. A couple of things to highlight is that we as the group health care committee, as human resources, get to evaluate them on how timely they are in notifying us of problems instead of the other way around. Communication of the plan's results, timely delivery of data reporting, and then that if there is an issue, that they provide us with a comprehensive action plan within a week. So in summary, I've taken those green indicators and put them up on the screen for you. Clearly, advantage UMR with 12 greens under network availability services member tools, and then also under performance guarantees. And this slide is something that you asked for, and I'm going to let the brokers speak to how do we know whether we would see cost savings?
Again, Lloyd Barnes with LP Insurance Services. So one of the challenges with a network evaluation process is you're looking at a network one that may have access to these providers, and then you're looking and trying to compare that to network two that has access to these providers. Some of them overlap, some of them do not. And so what we attempt to do with the process of doing a discount savings analysis is to see if there's anything significantly different, knowing that a population, a utilization within a population from period 1 to period 2 to period 3 is going to vary dramatically. Back to your question of, 1 year you could have no large claim that has to go to UCSF, and year 2 you could have 2 of them. One has to go to UCSF and one to University of Utah. And so these things do become a little bit rough to evaluate. But the overall process here is we provide the data, a claims data feed to each of the vendor for this, in this case it was 2022, and said, give us your best shot at what your discount amounts would be at with this population, with this data set. And the feedback back, again, with some a little bit of apples and oranges here. So the best that we can do is provide an estimate to that, is to provide an estimate of what we feel a reasonable discount would be under the various vendors. And you can see here with a margin of error there that they're fairly close. You can see that they're all within that low 60s to mid 60 5% discount range. So that's a discount off of billed charges that the plan should expect. So that's the exercise that was going on here. So in our view, you're trying to look for, is there anything that is a significant outlier here that could potentially cause the plan significantly higher or potentially significantly lower costs that would be really material? And these are fairly close in nature and certainly within the realm of not seeing any major variances with the 3 networks.
Right, Christopher.
If we can just kind of go here for a second. Thank you for all this information. This is very helpful to walk through. So Washoe County put out in their own meeting saying that this last year, under the new group that we're looking at, that I know our staff has come and said that they've seen a 34% increase, I believe, and then they're expecting a 40% increase next year, is what in their on their own docket that they put out. But we're only expecting a 20% if we stay where we're at PPO cost. But your thing says we're the same or 5%. Am I missing up numbers here? Just help me. I'm trying to understand.
I wouldn't say that you're messing up numbers, but there's what is being represented there, what is being demonstrated by the county. I think there's a little bit of looking at different things for different purposes. So the county, as I understand what you're referring to, is they're looking at the overall health of their self-funded plan and what type of increase they might be looking at. Is that what I understand?
Oh, it is, and to me, they're a larger group, so they should be getting a better price. Typically how insurance works, it would
Yeah,
seem.
the price, the contract rates that each network has with the vendors are independent of the size of the organization. So you're getting the same contracts that, any organization within Nevada would be contracted with here in Nevada. So Aetna, Meritain, contracts with their providers for all of their business. Hometown contracts with their providers for all of their business. And so these discounts represent the contract rates based on the utilization of the city of Sparks within this marketplace.
So, but just again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not at all, so much more about this than me. I'm just trying to understand them. I'm really concerned about the finances, probably more.
Absolutely.
Service matters, obviously, and there's a lot of things that we can go back and forth. I mean, I have my own questions on service, all that stuff, but it comes down to finances. We have to make some wise decisions here and make sure. I am aware that because Hometown Health is tied to Renown, that they have some percentages that they bring down the price of this, and so I'm assuming that's part of why it's the 19% that we're seeing. I could be wrong, but on this, under that new network, Washoe County, who can't have that dissimilar of a group than we do, has seen a 34% increase this year and expecting 40% increase next year in their insurance.
I don't think that's exactly correct. They're comparing that cost to their funding levels. And so that's where I think there's, when this process of evaluation is one where an organization is trying to look at what's the contract rate? What's the discount rate with the given providers? And in this case, let's just use a rough 63% average that basically each network is getting a 63% discount for those providers. The impact of the utilization, how much everyone goes to the hospital, how much everyone uses the doctor, is what drives the 30 and 40% needed increase for a given organization, or 20% for the city of Sparks. So you could have the exact same reimbursement. So I'm going to pay Renown 50% of their bill charges. Every network could, but if I have 30 people more going to that provider than organization B, I'm going to need to charge more for my insurance.
So in this thing, so, because it says across all tiers, they're expecting that increase of 40%. So they're expecting more people to be sick next year, according to what you're.
Compared to how much revenue they're taking in on their plan from the county and their employees, and based on the usage of that plan by the county and by the county employees, they feel that they need to increase it by whatever your quoted number is.
40.63%, and we're looking at 19% now, under what we're in.
Correct. And again, that is those numbers that you're looking at, which are very appropriate and good important numbers to look at, are the comparison of the cost and or projected cost and the revenue taken in. If for some reason an organization isn't taking in enough revenue, maybe they've gone 3 or 4 years without adjusting rates, that can exacerbate that difference. And again, I'm not going to speak to what you're looking at from the county perspective, but you can have an exacerbation of that differential just by nature of if an organization isn't keeping up with their funding.
Well, they just raised, I'm really not arguing, I'm just trying to put it out there. 34% this last year, so they have been keeping up. And so next year is 40%. So I don't know, I don't understand how these two come together, because it seems to me like these numbers should be way different than what you're saying, percentage-wise.
Yeah.
If this proves to be true at all, how do I trust that we're not walking into next year we have this huge increase? Am I just supposed to believe you? I mean, I say this, am I supposed to believe everybody here over what I see the county going through?
I think you certainly have to look at all of the factors with the county, and maybe there's a further conversation that would have to be had there. But from a contract rate, which is the purpose of this particular exercise, the variance between the different contracts, there is a variance. There does appear to be a variance. I won't minimize that, but it is relatively small in the overall scheme of the networks that were being evaluated, and that could change very dramatically based on utilization. And that's where that process can be is just loose.
And maybe I can help clarify for you, Councilman. The city of Sparks has taken adjustments pretty consecutively from year to year. So what our employees and each of us are paying for our premiums, so we have, as was kind of alluded to, we have taken small bites at the apple, if you will, and my understanding is the county has not taken bites at the apple, which is where you get to the numbers you're at, where ours is smaller. We did a premium increase this year. We've taken it over the past, and county has let their fund balance get down within that, where we made those adjustments 4 or 5 years ago, where we started not letting it get so low so we could maintain some.
We have a fund balance now for healthcare. Jeff, can you help me out, Jeff? Yeah. I know we got into it during the Great Recession. I don't know if we put it back.
Yeah, Jeff Kronk, your CFO, just dive in here a little bit. Yeah, we do have a healthy fund balance that we've been pretty fortunate from a couple of different angles, as they were talking about both usage and our action, if you will, on taking little bites at the rate increases as necessary. Your reference to the recession, though, is a fantastic reminder of what can happen when we don't do that. And if you recall, we were looking for money everywhere, and so we took the decided action not to raise the premium rates and actually reduce them because at the time we had some fund balance, but that has a consequence. And then that took our fund balance down to essentially zero, almost, right flatline area. And so from there, we had to see some significant raises. But now going forward a few years, since then, we've been very consistent. So right now, we were looking at cost projections in that 17 to 20%, and we made a conscious decision to include in our budget this fiscal '24 for 9%, so we kind of cut it in half. We said, well, let's do half now and then see if we can reduce our costs, or we're going to have to do the next half later. But right now, we're able to do that because we have a healthy fund balance.
What's the approximate ballpark?
Oh, amount?
Yeah.
Right now, we're looking at, I look more from a dollar perspective, I look more of coverage, and right now, it's coming down a little bit. We were at about an 8-month coverage. Now we're down to about 5 to 6 months coverage, but.
That's the way I remember it, was the months of coverage.
Yep, it's a great way to look at it.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Any other questions from the council? I got a quick question. So I'm reading the summary, and the TPA services are going up by 81, 85, and 89% in each year. That's $460,000+ over the length of the contract. Where does that $460,000 extra dollars come from? What's
And
the benefit to us
I'll
to
keep,
pay the extra money?
Right, I'll keep Jeff close here. So this is the evaluation of the annual administrative costs. As you can see, Hometown is the lowest bidder.
Correct.
I am recommending UMR because of the services that they provide that we have not gotten throughout our 8 years with Hometown. And I believe that the cost of increasing those services, where I would see that coming from, is in the ability of our group health committee to have the tools that they need to make informed recommendations to the council about how to spend that $12 to $13 million. So where does that come from? This comes from the group health care fund, which is the account that Jeff was just talking about. So it is a part of the expenses in our group healthcare plan. Where do we get that? It's from the premiums that the city, the employees, and the retirees pay for group health. So my recommendation of UMR is that I believe they have the best ability to provide answers for our suggestions to our group health committee to address the concerning rise in costs for that $12 to $13 million plan. So we're talking about a difference of, little more than $100,000 per year. But my concern is if we don't get the services that we need for the group health care committee and we don't make changes to the plan design, how large does that $12 to $13 million per year spend go? And where does that fund balance go? So it's just putting into perspective, do we need to put more money towards tools? My recommendation is yes, because without that, I just don't know how the group health care committee can make any headway towards the rising costs that we're seeing on the multi-million-dollar level.
Bybee?
So that's kind of where my question was too, for the approximately $130,000 per year difference of UMR to Hometown. It is more services, it's mental health services, the centers of excellence, and you're talking about services. Some of them you covered, the data and the trending and the things, the analytics. And this is your business, you guys. Can you help me out here? What our hope is that for $130,000 a year to provide mental health, I mean, that in and of itself for me, because we don't have it, would probably be worth it. But what kind of fiscal value do you see? Do you see good potential in the analytics and the trends and the things that can be shared with the Healthcare Committee in changing decisions as they proactively are looking at how do we manage these out of control healthcare costs, which aren't going down, but might help us get a handle on that? Is that what you see as experts in this field as a possibility of actually having a dollar benefit to us for the increased cost?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the evaluation process that the city's team went through was, in aggregate, do the vendors, or how do the vendors stack up with all of the various services they offer? And do we feel that they can help us manage our plan better and more cost effectively? In isolation, I think it's really hard to say this service is going to save us X dollars or Y dollars. I mean, that's impractical. And so it really becomes a more aggregate type of an evaluation of, do we feel that overall one of these other vendors can help us manage this plan better and more cost effectively? And that's the response that the city has determined. Because there is this dynamic in our industry where, any one claim can have such a huge impact on our cost, right? So we can be talking about $100,000, $130,000 a year. If there is a claim that ends up at one provider where a contract is significantly better, it can save those dollars very quickly. Conversely, based on utilization, it doesn't always go that way. So it's really important to I think you're asking all the right questions, and they're very valid and viable questions. But it is one of small numbers. And as you have a plan that is relatively small numbers, even for as large as the city is, you do have to make some judgment calls around how these utilization patterns happen, and trying to make decisions based on what do we feel is the best way to manage your plan from a cost standpoint. Are there any major deficiencies in the contracts? No, we do not believe there are. Are there service enhancements that could result in cost savings? Yeah, I think there are. Are there additional administrative fee costs that go into this contract? Yes, clearly there are. Those are hard and fixed. So those are the things that the city staff has had to weigh out and determine, where are we willing to focus our efforts? What do we want to provide to our employees from an access, from a service standpoint, from an overall management of the plan perspective?
Ms. Vanderwell.
I have, mine's a two-part question. Were our concerns and what we wanted to see in our evaluation ever communicated to Hometown Health, that we were looking for the mental health, the behavioral, those kind of additions in our plan?
Jill Valdez again. Yes, that was part of the bid process. So we put together a pretty comprehensive roadmap for the vendors to reply. And that way it allowed us to look at what their services were apples to apples. So, for example, mental health was a highlight in that document. Some of these other services were highlighted in that document. So when it came to evaluating the providers, it was our goal to have given them as much information up front as possible so they knew what they were bidding for, and then to look at them based on what was asked.
And I just have a follow-up. So a follow-up question is, if we went with UMR because they cover more patients or applicants in their whole than Hometown Health, are we going to realize cost savings because of that?
I'm not sure I'm following your question
Okay,
completely. I'm sorry.
so does UMR, do they have more members than Hometown Health? So will we realize cost savings because of being in a larger plan?
Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification. UMR is the TPA, third-party administrator arm of United Healthcare. United Healthcare, I think it bounces back and forth, but they're either the largest insurance company and insurance network in the country or second. I'm not sure where they stand today, but they're right up there. In general, from a contracting standpoint, contracting meaning the discounts that they can demand from the providers, generally the larger, the more aggressive you can contract. But that's not absolute. We also have Hometown, which is, a sister company to Renown. And as you would expect, we know they have very good contracts with their sister organization, Renown. And so, again, that's where you have to look at it as broadly as we can. And for you, the broadest we were able to look at it was look at the data for 2022, see how it all shakes up, and just see is there any real major differences. But again, any one claim that UMR has contracted, or Meritain or Aetna, for example, has contracted with, let's just say Stanford, much more aggressively because they have a huge population in California, whereas Hometown's contract through their RAP network may not be as aggressive. That could have a positive impact. But those are the ones that it's very hard for us to say, put this dollar amount to it because you're going to save that amount because we don't know if that'll happen next year. Very well could.
Mr. Anderson.
I have a question I just need your help to understand. So one of the benefits of like the UMR program is it's going to give us a bigger network and lessen the out-of-network claims. But from what I saw for 2022, our out-of-network was only 6%. So 94%, 94%, figuring my math here, thank you. I'll look to Jeff for more help. But 94% of those claims that are being used every single day in this last year have been within the network. And then I kind of caveat off of that as well. I just want to make sure, Jill, I heard you say we could not use through City of Sparks part of the Northern Nevada network now. I just want to make sure I understand that correctly. We can use it. It would just be out of network. Is that so? Two-part question there, and then an ask afterwards.
So let's see. Let's go back to the first part of that. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Percent of
out of network. Okay, so correct. The 2022 out of network utilization for the City of Sparks, relatively minor. The challenge is that we've got two types of out of network. I'm sorry, I'm going to do this to you, but I'm going to do it to you. There's two types of out of network. There's out of network that is truly, Jill decides she wants to go to a provider not on the network for a given doctor's visit or procedure. That is an employee choice out of network. Then there is I don't have the opportunity to choose because this service isn't available in Reno, Nevada or Northern Nevada, and I have to go somewhere else for my care. The benefit is going to get treated as though it's an in-network benefit. I'm going to have the same deductible and copay, but I have to go outside of Nevada for my care because it's not available here. Give you an unfortunate example. We've got another client, very similar sized, in another part of Northern Nevada. They've got a burn patient right now. Burn patient's going to run up $3 million in claims. They have to be in California. There's just not that service in Reno Sparks to take care of that particular patient. So that could be an out-of-network claim, even though the benefit's paid in network. So there are some nuances to the concept of out-of-network that we're getting into from the standpoint of there are definitely dollars that get looked at as though they're in network, even though they have to get applied to an out-of-network contract or the RAP contract that I was talking about earlier.
So the spend, if I'm understanding correctly, the spend is on the claimant side as well as the city? I'm just trying to understand that 6% spend. Are you talking about that? I don't know. I guess I'm just not understanding entirely how, again, such a small percentage can make a big decision into why we would want to leave a current carrier.
Well, I don't feel that that's the reason. That's the sole reason. There are, I think, as Jill's alluded to, there are a variety of factors that are going into this process. But one of which is the additional access to providers such as the new Universal Health Services, the new Northern, what the heck is it called? Sierra Nevada, Sierra Medical Center, the new Sierra Medical Center on Longley. Northern Nevada Medical Center's providers, because you currently have access to the facility, and then St. Mary's. So from a Northern Nevada perspective, and it's primarily the access of those new systems. Another example is Reno Diagnostic Center, which historically employees can't access under the current model. That now comes into a preferred provider status. And so there are these nuances to that, but I don't think the decision is solely around the access of trying to convert those people that live in that out-of-network, that 6%. Now all of a sudden we're going to have them in-network. That's not a game changer. I would agree with your assessment. It's really those ones where if that burn victim happens here, hopefully we get the best contract as possible under a better contract than was possible previously under one of these national models.
So if I could just clarify that, I think what he's saying is that your 6% is bigger because it does not consider those that have been coded as in-network for purposes of what the patient is paying, but where the plan is actually paying larger costs. So for example, that burn case would be coded as in-network, even though it's considerable costs outside of the state.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, my ask was that I see that we have representatives from our current carrier, and just wanted to know see if they had an opportunity to speak as well.
You know, I've been vacillating on this decision because there's nobody else here from the other two carriers. So and it's not a public comment item. So I'm gonna have to decline. Mr. Abbott, you're up. Okay. Anyone else?
I just have a quick question. Thank you. Thank you for answering all those questions. This actually just has to do with the contract. So with Hometown Health looking at this, this is a 3-year, if we said, no, we're staying where we're at, it's a 3-year commitment. But it does say that with 120 days, we can cancel anytime we want. So it's a 3-year, but if we end up not liking this, and I say this, I think, I know they're here in the room, we can, even if they can't speak, we know they're here. And the things that we are concerned about, I think they've heard very clearly. So my only question is, walking with who we've walked with, is we know they did go through a time, I mean, they've not hidden that, where they did have some faults on some of their data stuff that they were using, and it caused a lot of problems. And with that said, but we can, I just want to make sure I'm reading what I'm reading right. We can cancel this within 3 months of time or 4 months of time, whatever, 120 days, and then we could look at going with somebody else at that time, if that's what we choose, if we wanted to stay. I'm just another option, I'm just wondering.
Jill Valdez for the record. There is an implementation period, so that's why we're talking to you today and not closer to January. So in theory, you could potentially cancel within 120 days, but then the process for going out and finding another third-party administrator and planning for the time of that implementation does add time to that. I also wanted to, you asked me this last time, and I came prepared to answer your questions about the service, and I wanted to do it in the most objective way that I could. So I mentioned that we have performance guarantees, and Hometown looks at those every quarter. So over a 5-year contract period, we've now had 18 out of the 20 quarterly reports showing what their performance guarantee information was. I went back and I thought, like you did, well, maybe they had difficulty in 2022, but that was a blip. But the reality is that they had performance deficits in every year of this contract. So out of 18 quarters that have been evaluated, they missed one and sometimes all of the performance guarantees, 11 out of 18 quarters. So we are talking about some issues that have been ongoing and that are not solely related to system conversion in 2022. Not to consider the fact that during this 5-year period of time, we haven't gotten those other services that we need from, looking at the trends, looking at our own data to try to better understand that. The Hometown has an opportunity, every group health committee, to present on something, and our pharmacy benefit manager brings a beautiful presentation about benchmarking, about trends, what we're seeing in our data, what the industry is seeing. Hometown has used their time to report on their call volume and those types of things and their performance and guarantees. So over a 5-year contract period, we've had 4.5 years of that. We are not getting, or we're not seeing that they have the reporting structure, some of those services that are already built in for Meritain and UMR. So you all challenged me last time. Is it possible that, we're seeing most and potentially all but 1 or 2 of the public entities go away from Hometown? Does that mean that their services would be better? I can't answer that in the affirmative. I certainly don't know what the future holds, but if the performance over the entire 5-year contract period is an indicator, I would have to say no.
Ms. Vanderwell.
I wanted to question, and if I remember correctly, you said that when the request for proposal went out to all of these, there were specific things that were in there. So what I found that was unique, which I find a positive, is in UMR's contract, that if their numbers fall below what their accuracy is, that we are credited. So, and it looks like they are the only one out of everybody that did do it. So I know that we had all asked at the last meeting, one of us did, that with all these entities, local entities, moving to UMR, what is their service levels going to be like? So I do want to say that UMR putting that in there gives me a little more relief on it.
All 3 have performance guarantees. Hometowns is 10% of the administrative costs for that quarter. Meritain, 3% goes towards a one-time implementation, and the remaining 12% is their performance guarantees. And with UMR, it's 13% for their performance guarantees. So over the course of the contract, UMR would be the highest level of performance guarantee.
Ms. Bybee.
I'm ready to take action today. I don't want to kick the can down the road. All the work that's been done, Jill, for you, for everybody, for the RFPs that we got, there's a lot of work that goes into all 3 companies. Just to do an RFP is not a simple process at all. So I think we need to honor the fact that that work has been done for all 3 of these bidders, and for our brokers, and for Jill and your department in looking at this. And I think that in moving forward, we owe it to our employees, to our retirees, to our fiscal responsibility of really doing everything we can to be the most aggressive in addressing what is one of our biggest costs and biggest challenges of healthcare. And how do we address that? And I think that the services, it isn't a higher cost, but I think the services that UMR can offer us, and like I said, the mental health for me is huge, because guess what? The mental health impacts everything. And we're seeing in our community, mental health touches everyone. It touches seniors. I've got a dad in the hospital right now with dementia. So we've got seniors, we've got the homeless, we've got teenagers, we've got suicide rates, we've got mental health has just, we don't do very well on that as a nation or as a community. And it's a need that impacts all of our other costs. And as a self-funded, like you said, one big claim, two big claims, to be able to go to a center of excellence or to have the mental health that maybe becomes proactive. And we're able to stay out in front of it because we offer those services to our employees and to our retirees, I think is something that I feel obligated that we should do and could be a positive on all sides for everyone as well as for the bottom line. I'm ready to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, if you're ready to accept
Just
one.
ask one more time, are there any more questions from the council?
There's more slides. I'd like to see all of them.
Do you want to finish the presentation?
Sorry.
As you know, staff recommends UMR, and I've just highlighted here some of the reasons why. We talked about that benchmarking and that very large number of members and entities that we could benchmark with. The large support team in Northern Nevada, that was really important to us. The reporting that's already established in the system, ad hoc reports available as well. The case manager on the local team to help us understand what those reports mean for our Sparks plan, that mental health director available to the city. The largest network in the country with seamless access, adding our Sparks providers so that they can be in network and no longer out of network for our members, as well as St. Mary's, without losing the hometown network with renowned partners. National network for centers of excellence so that I can sleep better at night with our thinking about our potentially low frequency, high risk claims. And then many provider quality tools that are available for members and rewards for outcomes. And I think this is the last slide. This just gives you an idea of if you were one of our members going to the UMR site to look for a primary care provider, those are the two blue hearts to tell you that this premium care physician has good outcomes. The stars at the bottom that lets you know that other people like you have rated the provider well. And then over to the right, if you were logged in, you'd be able to get an idea of what that provider would cost you as compared to, at the top, the average cost for providers in the area. So there's tools, there are the potential for help for our group health committee, proactive services. For all of those reasons, staff recommends UMR.
Ms. Bybee, you want to make a motion?
I am, as soon as it comes up in front of me here. Okay. I move to approve the 3-year contract AC 5985 with UMR for TPA services for the city's self-funded group healthcare plan in the amount of $324,899 for calendar year 2024, $331,995 for calendar year 2025, and $339,252 for calendar year 2026 from the group health plans fund.
Ms. Vanderwell,
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Okay, we've got a denial, 3-2, with, no, excuse, you changed, okay. I saw an X there. So it passes 3-2 with Dare and Abbott voting against. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Everything you wanted to know about insurance, but we're afraid to ask. Okay, number 10, we have no public hearing and action items unrelated to planning. We have no planning and zoning public hearings. And we're back to comments from the public. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, We'll go to announcements from the mayor, city council, city manager. Mr. Chief Manager,
Yes, sir.
council, you have anything? Nothing? And I don't have anything, so with that, we're adjourned. We got our
Redevelopment.
redevelopment right now.
Okay. Also, then okay. Then I won't talk as fast as normal, so I'll go ahead. Call to order. The meeting of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency of Monday, September 25th, 2023, with a roll call.
Chairperson Bybee?
Here.
Agency members Lawson, currently absent. Abbott?
Here.
Vanderwell?
Here.
Anderson?
Here.
Dare?
Here.
Chief Legal Officer Duncan?
Here.
Acting Chief Administrative Officer Crawforth.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item 3.1, public comment. Do we have any public comment today? Seeing none, I'll close item 3.1. Item 4.1, approval of the agenda. Do I see a motion? Agency Member Vanderwell?
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Agency Member Anderson?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please vote. Okay, motion carries 5 with 1 abstention. Currently absent, but he'll be here. Item 5.1, consideration, discussion, possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting for August 28th, 2023. Do I have any corrections, additions, or a motion to approve the minutes? Agency Member Dare?
I move to approve the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting for August 28th, 2023.
Thank you. Agency Member Vanderbilt.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please vote. Motion carries 5 with 1 that will be here. Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to next item. Item 6.1, consideration possible acceptance of the report of the claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period of August 16th, 2023 through September 12th, 2023. Looking for a motion. Agency Member Abbott.
I move to accept the report of claims and bills and the appropriation transfers for the period of August 16, 2023 through September 12, 2023.
Okay. Agency Member Anderson.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please vote. Motion carries unanimously with all 6 votes. Moving on to item number 8.1, comments from the public. Do I have any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close comments from the public. 8.2, announcements from the agency and chief administrative officer. Chief manager? No? Anyone else on the agency? Okay, I'll close that item. No announcements. So I'll move on to adjournment. Thank you. We're adjourned.